Welcome to the OK Not OK podcast. I am Dr. OK, and today is our question of the week. So, no messing around. Let's get right to it with the SportsZu. Doc, we've now had 2 Raws in the Netflix era. So, which one was better, the premiere or this week? Well, SportsZu, didn't you watch the videos? I gave them the same final OK grade, so no, neither was better than the other? I don't know. Alright, well anyways, let's get into a little bit more detail than that. So I would say the Netflix premiere was more about star power, while this week's show was back to being a wrestling show. So of course, on the premiere we had The Rock, we had John Cena, we had 3 possible WrestleMania main events in Punk Rollins, Rey Sikoa, and Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan. Plus we even had an Undertaker cameo, Hollywood stars all throughout the arena, a brand new venue for the event, and I would say it pretty much had everything, all the bells and whistles, and so it was certainly a big deal. But of course, this week we had several things that were really good as well. We had a huge debut by Penta, we crowned the first ever women's intercontinental champion, and we had a street fight to end a really big feud, so that was a good way to blow that off, finally. So I guess what I can say is my segment OKs don't always line up with the overall grade, because when you look at those individually on the premiere, I had 4 OKs and 9 not OKs, including 2 of which were double not OKs. And this week I had 8 OKs, including 1 double OK, and then 3 not OKs, and all of those were double not OKs. So when I got to it, I ended up giving them both an OK. Now, the best thing I think we saw on either show was that Penta debut. Yeah, he started a little bit slowly, and that leg drop he had was only about a foot off the ground, it seemed, so I don't know how much damage he could have done there, but man, once he started to get going, he really cooked after a few minutes. I cannot believe that Mexican destroyer that he landed on Gable, nor can I even believe how Gable was able to get off the mat after that and wasn't even pinned. And of course, the way he ended the match was pretty darn cool, but of course he was merely going against Chad Gable, so how much can we really take out of that since Gable loses most of his matches? Then, of course, on the other hand, Punk versus Rollins was a really great match to be the main event for that premiere episode. It had all the vitriol between 2 rivals, but still, even with all of that, both guys using the other's finishers, and it just being incredibly hard-hitting, and with Punk getting those 2 GTSs to win, it still felt like the beginning instead of the end of a feud, which I think we certainly want to see that a few more times before they are done. And then in the other OK matches, we certainly knew the cavalry was going to be coming in that Roman Reigns Solo Sikoa match. And of course, Cody Rhodes made himself out to look like a humongous chump. It's just really lucky for him that he's probably the best wrestler on the planet. And of course, same for Liv, we knew that Dom was certainly going to get involved, and Raquel as well, and I'm glad that Dom finally got his comeuppance with that kick to the Dirty D, and then also, of course, that Riptide. Now when we compare that match to the street fight that we just saw between Priest and Balor, no, we certainly did not need another match between those 2, but it at least delivered. I think there was a lot of weird what were you thinking moments in that particular match, but it is hard to complain where you have a match where anything goes and then they go there literally all over the arena and then off of a ledge into 2 tables down below. So we certainly saw literally anything happen. So when you compare those 2, well, it's kind of a toss-up at the end of the day, even though the former ones should have been so much better. So let's go to the worst thing we saw on either show. Well, other than Roman Reigns winning, since we obviously should not have seen that, it had to be Hulk Hogan hawking the beer, right? Yuck, that was a disgusting segment. Let's just not do that again. If the Hulkster wants to be there for a good reason, all for it, bring them back, especially with the NWO, but no. Let's not do exactly that same thing again. But this week I did hand out 3 double not okays, and most notably that match between The Miz and Sami Zayn. But at least that got us to 5 matches for this week's show, because you really should never only have 4 matches in a 3+ hour event. That was crazy. Now, Sami did do one good thing by surprising us by going haluva kick first and then the Blue Thunder Bomb, so it is a rare day when he can say he finished his opponent with the Blue Thunder Bomb, but there it is, new year, new finish. But what I'm really more disappointed in is that segment with Rhea Ripley, because Mommy did not get to have a true celebration that she truly deserved after only having to drop that title due to Liv Morgan injuring her in the first place. And so when she had that celebration cut short by not just 1, but 2 SmackDown stars taking up her space, that was definitely double not okay. And so that, of course, spilled into the Wyatt Six, Karrion Kross, Miz, and Sami Zayn, with the Wyatt Six just getting a mention from Kross to say that they were moving over to SmackDown. So this transfer portal, yet again, just truly a disaster. But beyond that, at least all of the other Beyond the Mat segments made sense. We had all those Rumble declarations, and of course, ongoing tensions between Punk, Rollins, and McIntyre. And last week's segments were kind of a bummer, as The Rock showed up, which is always good, but he didn't further his story with Cody Rhodes and instead went with his board duties, and that was really not cool, so I guess he was just on his best behavior. But then when he showed up on NXT the next night, he did say that he was 20 steps ahead, so I guess we'll have to see exactly what that means. So hopefully he'll be right back to going after Cody and all the crybabies. And John Cena being there, of course, that is a plus as a way to kick off the Last Time Is Now tour, but he didn't interact with anyone, so that wasn't cool, and he already pretty much told us that he was going to be at the Rumble, so that didn't break any new ground, but at least he did the best Dr. OK thing by pointing out exactly the 2,446 days since his last singles win. Another bummer was The Undertaker not saying anything. Yeah, it was great to see Rhea Ripley with The Undertaker, but doing the whole entrance, that would have been cool. Saying something on the mic, that would have been cool, but nope. So that would have gotten a not okay if it didn't have to go with Rhea Ripley. Then Logan Paul just sitting in the crowd and having a pre-tape segment. What was that? What was that? You clearly had the opportunity to do this, and Gunther didn't even bother to show up at all. That was even worse. How could we just do that? This is your champion, not on your debut show. Wow. Wow. So there was certainly a lot to complain about, but we did give it an okay because it felt like a big deal. WWE made it a big deal, and so it was a big deal. Now, I am very disappointed, however, with the Women's Intercontinental title match not being on that premiere. Those women certainly deserved that. They had to go through that tournament and earn their spot in the finals to make history, and it certainly would have been better than the McIntyre-Jey Uso match. So that gives this week's episode many points in its favor because the women did indeed show out, and we gave it the friendly neighborhood Doc okay. But on this week's episode, we did get 2 very stale feuds with Priest and Balor and Sheamus and Kaiser. But I will say both matches delivered inside the ring, even though we didn't really need to see them at all. But maybe, just maybe, this is finally what it took for those 2 losers to realize that they are indeed losers. Because over the last several months, Priest and Sheamus showed over and over again that they are just way better than the other 2, as Balor went 1-11 in all singles matches now since January of 2024, and Kaiser in less time is now 1-10 in all of his singles matches since he returned from injury in August of 2024. So yeah, these two losers just need to give it up already. So at this point, why are they even on our screen? Give somebody else a shot to do anything, because these two guys do not deserve it. And speaking of chances, if you give someone a shot that doesn't deserve it, they just might win. And of course, I'm speaking of Roman Reigns getting that Ula follow back, because he certainly did not deserve a shot at Tribal Combat. And as we know, he needed the help of Jimmy Uso, Sami Zayn, and Cody Rhodes to get the win. And that is, of course, so disgusting that I don't want to start throwing up now that I've been feeling better. So we're just gonna leave that right here for today. Now, I will say neither show was perfect. Each had its strengths and weaknesses. One was treated like WrestleMania, and the other was treated like a good episode of Raw. And I will say, if the premiere were a WrestleMania, it would have been a huge disappointment. So I'm glad that it was not. Now this week, for just a regular episode of Raw, that was pretty good. And if not for the terrible transfer window, it probably would have been even better to get a double okay. So in conclusion, I think I have to say that this week's episode was better with Penta, with that women's IC title match, and just an overall better show, and even a little tighter show that only took a little over 2.5 hours. Now, I of course would not complain if we got a 6th match to get that to 3 hours. That sounds like a really good idea to me. But hey, I was just happy to see Raw get back on track to what we're used to, and I'm looking forward to what is to come in this Netflix era. And just like both of these episodes were better than an average episode of Raw, I think you need to go right on over here and check out all my grades from this week's Raw. And if you don't, that would be just like the transfer window, which is not okay.